Namaste, beloved. How are you? My name is Syma, and I am an international sacred feminine coach, healer, author, and I have the blessing of supporting soulful women all over the world in uncovering and healing their greatest blocks, manifesting their boldest dreams, and flourishing in every way into the goddesses that they truly are. Today's topic is so close to my heart, and if you're watching this, I know that you need this, my love. So we are going to be talking about forgiveness. Because if you are finding that you are constantly focusing on the past, if you find that you think of someone and still feel angry and resentful, if you feel that you are stuck in your life, if you feel that you are still reeling in heartache and heartbreak and pain and resentment, rage even, these emotions, my love, are so toxic. And that's exactly what they do, is they keep us stuck. They keep us from moving forward. They keep us from even being fully present to all the gifts and the fullness and blessings of our lives. And there are always countless blessings in our lives if we just become present to them and begin to count. So forgiveness is so essential, but I also know that it can be so difficult to do when people have really hurt us, when they really wronged us. And I mean, in my own experience, I had so much abuse in my childhood and, had, of course, some adult experiences as well where forgiveness was definitely called for. But my major experiences and healing around forgiveness was having to heal 11 different men who sexually assaulted me when I was a child. And this is when my parents took my sisters and I to Pakistan for a few years of my childhood, so from the age of 7 to 11. And the result of that sexual trauma, and I was also physically abused by my parents. So when I came back to Canada at the age of 11, I had major post-traumatic stress disorder, and just constantly felt like a victim, and this feeling of poor me, and that people have power over me and I am powerless. That was my feeling. That was my story. That was my energy. That was my experience. So it was natural to feel that way. But what ended up happening was that I constantly also attracted those kinds of experiences. So I might have been bullied, or just had a lot of trouble connecting and making friends. And then even as an adult, I was blessed to have some wonderful colleagues and bosses, but there were definitely in the last part of my corporate career times where I had these authority figures taking away my power or testing my boundaries and really needing to step into my power. And the whole healing around that had to happen with forgiveness, because in my teens, that post-traumatic stress disorder, which depression was a huge part of it to the point where I wanted to die, it returned to me in my mid-20s. And, in high school, I had therapy. I was blessed to have counselors. So we did counseling, but forgiveness was never really a part of the counseling. And I think that's why in my mid-20s, I had a quarter-life crisis, the dark night of the soul, where I had to face all that pain all over again, pain that I thought I'd already dealt with and processed in therapy. And I realized that holding on to that pain, there was still a story of feeling like, how could they do this? It's not fair. Why did this happen to me? And just feeling completely powerless and victimized and hurt and betrayed. And, that manifested in my life in many different ways with a lot of blocks and all the things I wanted to manifest. So when I finally learned that forgiveness was not about me saying that the people that molested me as a child, they're okay and what they did was okay. The greatest aha and epiphany that set me free in my path was realizing that because of and by that I mean the people that assaulted me, it was because of what you did to me, I no longer deserve to suffer because of your unconscious acts, because you acted as deviants. I just finally chose and realized that I had to take back my power, and I had to transcend that and transform all those feelings. And I needed to remember that forgiving them was not for them. It was for me. Forgiving the other is never for the other, my love. It's for you. So realizing that, I embarked on a spiritual and sacred feminine goddess healing journey. I'll be talking to you about the goddess Kuan who can help a lot with forgiveness healing work. But that was my road back to healing and back to wholeness and back to manifesting all my dreams, and just everything cleared up. All the blocks lifted. And I had to do this in different ways. I had to forgive my bosses to manifest success in my life and abundance in my life as a self-employed person, because there was still some resentment there. Of course, I had to forgive my parents, exes, in order to manifest my beloved soulmate. So we can always find that if we're stuck in some part of our life, there's usually an element of forgiveness that has to happen. And sometimes, very importantly, it can even be with ourselves. So when we practice forgiveness, the most important thing to remember, my darling, is that this is for you. And of course, I see this in my client work as well. In all my programs, whether it's manifesting soulmate love, or there's one particular coaching program and healing program called Healing, Clearing, and Transforming Your Greatest Blocks. And the main healing work that happens there is uncovering the things not only that happen to us, but how we can forgive them in order to be free to move forward, to create the life and the blessings that we actually desire and deserve. So myself and my clients and everyone I support, we all experience these miracles when we forgive. And I want the same for you, beloved. So I would love to share with you some practices and maybe some how-tos in terms of how you can apply forgiveness in your life to welcome the healing that you finally deserve. Well, that you've always deserved. So the goddess here, as I said, is Kuan Yin. And Kuan Yin is one of my favorite goddesses when it comes to forgiveness. There are many more. There's Mother Mary, who's wonderful, Mary Magdalene. So there are definitely some beautiful goddesses. And in my work, what we do is, depending on who you need to forgive and what situation, we'll call in certain goddesses for that. So for example, if you need to forgive your ex because you want to manifest a new soulmate, we might work with Aphrodite. If you've been cheated on, we might work with the goddess Hera. And of course, we're always welcome to Jesus and Buddha and whatever spiritual guides you resonate with. But Kuan Yin represents, as she's sitting on this lotus flower, that, like the lotus flower, the things that happen to us are those muddy, dirty waters that we go through in life. But our spirit has the capacity to rise above that, like the lotus flower, and just open petal by petal, untainted and completely pure. That is the spiritual work. How do we go through life where people do hurt us and horrible things do happen to us sometimes? Like I said, abuse, childhood abuse, traumas, and how can we rise above them and still maintain faith, still be kind, still believe in the goodness of people, still believe in our own worth and value? So this is something we do for ourselves because we deserve it. And when we're forgiving, what we are tapping into is our own inner Kuan Yin, the place inside of us that is pure, the place inside of us that transcends the unconscious acts of others. In one of Kuan Yin's origin stories, one version of it, she was raped by monks in a monastery who saw her as this young, beautiful girl. And when her father heard news of this, he had that monastery burnt, where she was killed along with the monks. And then it said that when she was received on the other side, she had nothing but forgiveness for everyone, which transcended her into Buddhahood. And she even now says that it's known that Kuan Yin will not completely go on the other side until she helps every soul experience healing and enlightenment, right? And so Kuan Yin is inside all of us. She is that part of us that is our soul, that is grace, that is wisdom. But remember that there's a process to this. So another one of her name meanings is that she who hears all prayers and she who receives all tears. She's a goddess of mercy and compassion. So in our healing journey, what we want to do as a first step is to have a sacred space where we can actually feel our feelings fully and release that. Oftentimes, I've seen comments on the videos, and my clients will ask, if you're on the spiritual path, isn't it wrong to feel angry? Isn't that a lower emotion or negative emotion or an ego emotion? But in the spiritual healing process, feeling your full feelings is so necessary. And this is why I love the sacred feminine work, because we don't see those feelings as ego. We see them as what you feel. And you have to own your feelings. You have to feel your feelings. You have to witness your feelings in order to move forward. So if you can pray, if you can write in a journal, if you can vent this out to Kuan Yin or your higher self or Father, Mother, God or Jesus or whomever you connect with, your angels, if you can talk to a counselor or a loving confidant, if you're going to talk to someone you know, my recommendation is that talk to someone who's removed from the situation that you need the forgiveness towards, right? So for example, if, you have to forgive your ex-husband, perhaps don't go to your sister-in-law for that or your mother-in-law, but maybe a friend who's removed from that situation. So if you want to forgive your boss, don't talk to your colleague about it, but maybe talk to your husband or your partner or your friend. So the reason for that is that you want to talk to someone who can really hold the space for you, without an agenda, without their own feelings and biases about it, and just really hold the space for you with your best interest at heart. And you can just tell them, I'm wanting to do some forgiveness work, and can I share this with you? And then just let all your feelings out, and let the person you're confident know. If you're working with a coach, well, the coach would know how to help you, but just ask for space to let everything out. And what happens, my darling, is when you are releasing all those feelings, the anger, the rage, the resentment, the pain, that is finally energetically freeing you up. So you have to release it, because if you don't, it's toxic, and it can even turn inward and manifest as a physical illness, right? So it's so essential to let it out and not to be afraid of it and think that it's not spiritual to feel angry and feel these things. Just doing them, processing them in a space where you are safe and honoring yourself and everyone else, that's what's important. So not necessarily lashing that anger out at the person that betrayed you, but doing this work in a safe and sacred space for yourself first. And so that's one of the first essential steps, is just acknowledging what happened, how it made you feel, and fully ventilating and processing those feelings in a safe space, ideally with someone who can really hold and support you, a good confidant or a coach or healer that you resonate with. And then, my darling, you want to finally assert and affirm that you, even though you felt that you were no longer willing to suffer because of what happened to you, you are no longer willing to suffer because of what others did to you, that you are now ready to forgive because you deserve to be happy and free. So that's a process of blessing and releasing them. You may need to do some cord cutting with them. I do this with my clients, and you may need to, just ask that all karma between you be forgiven, and really send this love and light to their soul, because all souls are pure and from love and light. So maybe not think of them in their ego selves and their human selves, but think of them as pure souls, and send them love and forgiveness, and ask that everything between you both now be complete, so that you can both be free to move forward for both of your highest good. And that is when grace comes. And then once you feel free and you've taken back your power, the next step in forgiveness is to decide what you want. What do you want instead of that resentment, that pain, that anger, the old stories? It's time to write new stories. It's time to affirm new beginnings for yourself and to create beautiful new blessings. And this is so essential, because when we're hoping to have change and positive shifts and create new beginnings in our life, we might think, well, how can my past affect me? Or how can my thoughts about my ex affect, my desire to manifest abundance, right? But the universe, from a spiritual perspective, it doesn't see our life in these neat categories. It simply responds to our core beliefs and expectations and our vibration and our energy. So if the main energy, the core energy that we are holding is one of, again, pain or feeling victimized, then that is what we manifest, no matter what we're trying to do consciously and in our actions. So that's why, again, it's so important that we forgive. And I hope that this really serves you, and that you really feel empowered in knowing that forgiveness is something that you do for yourself, and it is truly one of the best gifts that you can give for yourself, to yourself. So when you're trying to forgive, if you find that you're having trouble letting go because what they did was just so horrible and it's not fair, that can come up. Like, it's not fair that I forgive them and they still act like that and they continue to be that way. Just know that they are on their own path, and the most powerful thing that you can do, the most rightful and just thing that you can do, how you will find fairness, is by being fair to yourself. It is not fair what happened to you, but what's even more unfair is you suffering continuously after the act has happened, right? So please just remember that. Don't get hung up on them. Focus on your freedom and what you deserve, and just know that you moving forward and your happiness is the best revenge, if that's what you're hung up on, right? So that is, again, the best gift that you can give yourself, and you don't even worry about them. Just let them be on their own path, and God, Goddess, they're accountable. Everything balances out in this lifetime or the next, right? So that is not something I would want you to get hung up on, my darling. So please just keep that in your heart. And then the other thing is, if you've forgiven, just know that forgiveness does by no means mean that you continue to put up with unfair or unjust or dishonoring treatment. So you may need to clear your energy, as I said, cut cords, protect yourself, and set boundaries. Kuan Yin is lovely because she is a goddess of grace and wisdom and enlightenment and kindness and compassion. But remember that there are many goddesses that we need to activate. So many sacred feminine archetypes. And if you're a man, this applies to you as well, of course. So you may need to have the Kali come in with her sword and, ready to be that warrior goddess to say no, to set a boundary, to leave an unhealthy and toxic situation, and to really take a stand for yourself. And that does happen. When you forgive, you gain so much more self-worth and self-respect and self-value that it's now your job and duty and responsibility to take a loving but firm and strong stance for yourself. So just remember that forgiving does not mean giving in or giving up. And, being spiritual doesn't mean being weak. Being kind does not mean letting others push you around or mistreat you. You can absolutely, and you must, you have a right to be strong and empowered and to teach people how to treat you and what you deserve, and to fully own your own divine and sacred, inherent and eternal self-worth and self-value, because you are divine and you deserve to be free and happy and blissful and have all that you desire come to you on the wings of angels, as it will once you free yourself with forgiveness. I know that will make a huge difference for you, as it has for me. So I really hope this has supported you. I invite you to leave some comments, share how you can apply this forgiveness, these tips to yourself. And I would love to hear, once you forgive, how you feel afterwards. So please come back and share your experiences with me. And please subscribe, please share this video with anyone that you feel would be blessed by it, be uplifted by it, be empowered by it. Please join me. I have a beautiful goddess meditation where Kuan Yin is there to support you at the heart chakra to open you to divine compassion. So that is you'll actually meet 14 goddesses, and that's on my website, flourishinggoddess.com. So I invite you to definitely go there and get that free meditation MP3, my darling. And I would just love to stay connected. So join me on Facebook, Instagram. I'm at Flourishing Goddess on all those channels. Subscribe here, and just please stay connected and let me know how this served you. And if you want to work with me one-on-one, you can book a coaching session with me at flourishinggoddess.com as well. So I'm sending you all my love. Thank you so much for joining me. Namaste.